Welcome back. The first day with input is almost over, and now it's time for the evening session, which I already announced to you in the morning. Tonight we're gonna have caustics and cocktails. Do you all know what caustics are, how they are created, and how we can influence these patterns? Well, I had to research it, and I'm very much looking forward to the next talk. Here we will learn more about caustics in the pre-recorded lecture from Dr. Markus Selmke. Enjoy.
So thank you for the kind introduction, and hello and welcome to a brief experimental intermezzo on caustics associated with drinks and cocktails. So you may rightfully ask, what more is there to expect from a drink than a good flavor? Well, I will try to persuade you in this brief session that there are actually beautiful patterns of light associated with the interaction of light with your drink that you may appreciate. And I will show you those nice patterns of light in a few experiments here on the table. So I will begin by reminding you of what a caustic is. A caustic is actually the loci of points in space where geometrical optics says that the intensity of light is infinite. It is often coincident with the envelope of rays, and you may, for practical use, associate it with bright patterns of light associated with imperfect focusing, either by refraction or by reflection. So then let me begin with the caustics associated with a half-filled glass of white wine. I will talk about white wine, and actually here in this case it's water, because that is needed to get light transmitted through it. You may in the past have noticed actually two sets of phenomena associated with light in wine glasses. The first one, likely you will have observed in an inside environment, let's say in a restaurant, and you might have noticed that ceiling lights, for instance the individual lights of a chandelier, get imaged on the table upon which the glass rests behind it. This is one phenomena, and the other phenomena is actually the beautiful pattern of light projected on the table if you were sitting in an outside environment. Let's say, like me here on a sunny day outside, sun is shining, and you will observe an hourglass-shaped caustic on the table. So actually those two things are two sides of the same coin. If you have, in a certain situation and with light coming from a certain direction, a compact and sharp caustic pattern projected in a certain plane, this will allow imaging to happen of lights that are situated in that direction. And now when I say caustics, actually with a white wine glass filled like this to a half filling level, there are at least 3 caustics associated with it. And let me begin with the first one. So the first caustic is associated with light that enters the bowl of the glass through the side, goes through the liquid volume and leaves on the other side of the glass. This one causes a focal aberrated pattern that is looking like a win on my hand like this, and it is a caustic that does not really reach the table in a noticeable manner. The second caustic that is very interesting is the one that is projected on the table. It is caused by light that enters the water through the top water level and leaves the white wine glass through the side bowl and is then projected on the table. You will notice that it is hourglass shaped in usual or typical circumstances, and you may then test by blocking parts of the white wine glass with your hand that the part of the hourglass shaped caustic close to the stem of the glass and concave towards it, which is here, that this one is associated with light that enters through the top part of the glass. So if I block it, you see that it disappears. And the part of the hourglass shaped caustic to the far end or far away from the wine glass stem, and that is convex towards the wine glass stem, that is actually associated with those rays that leave the bowl towards the bottom. And if you then selectively block those rays, you see this part of the caustic pattern disappear. You can actually also test those two statements by using more simple geometrical shaped glasses. So for this end, I have here a shot glass, which is a cylindrical shaped glass. And you can then notice if the sun is suitably low. Unfortunately, right now it's not the case, so I have to tilt the glass a little bit. You can see here that the semicircular caustic appears. And this is the part of the hourglass, or this mimics this part of the hourglass-shaped caustic that is close to the stem of the wine glass. On the other hand, if you fill a martini glass like this, you can mimic those rays which contribute to the hourglass-shaped wine glass caustic that leave the bottom part of the bowl where the glass is inclined. And here in this case you have the simpler geometry where the whole martini glass is with a constant inclination angle. And you see actually the caustic pattern shaped and curved like this, which is convex towards the stem of the glass. So those two experiments, cylindrical glass and martini glass, they support this claim that the rays that I claimed were contributing to this hourglass-shaped caustic are indeed contributing in the manner that I sketched. A third and last caustic now is associated with the light that interacts with the meniscus that clings to the side wall of the glass at the water level, at the filling level. That light leaves the glass at the side bowls after being transmitted through the liquid volume and projects a caustic up on the table upon which the glass rests, which looks like a trumpet. You can confirm that it's the light that interacts with the meniscus by blocking with your hand the meniscus and where the light interacts with it. And you will see the trumpet disappear, the trumpet caustic. Another fun experiment to do with shot glasses is actually to look at the reflection caustics due to floating bubbles. So for that I will overfill here a shot glass like this, and I will do that because then in case you create a bubble on top, it will float to the center top of that. So let me overfill here the shot glass with water. Surface tension helps me to have a hill on top of water. And I have to admit now that the best liquid, or the liquid best suitable for this kind of experiment, is probably not a liquor. I haven't tested them all through, but it's easiest to do if you have water and use a little bit of soap solution or soap bubble solution. And that is what I'm going to do now. Adding a few drops of soap solution, such that then in the next step I can blow bubbles in that. And we will then look at the reflection caustics of floating bubbles. To this end, I have here my metallic straw, and I will try to blow a bubble. You have a scenario where if you blow a bubble by a straw into this volume, it will rise to the top of that hill. And then, if sun is shining up on it, you can use a coaster or a screen, a white screen like this, to observe the caustic pattern that is reflected to the screen. And you will see then a very interesting caustic. It's actually a multi-component caustic. It is consisting of 3 components. There is an outside elliptical fold caustic with a dark patch inside. That is the first caustic, and it's due to the reflection by the outer meniscus of the bubble. And then there's an interesting, even more interesting caustic pattern consisting of 2 components that is inside that dark patch. And this reflection caustic is due to the reflection by the inner part of the bubble. And it's a reflection caustic that is generic for any rotational symmetric system that has astigmatism and spherical aberration. And if you then use a coaster or a screen and probe this 3D caustic structure by moving the coaster through it, you will see a transition starting from an asteroid or a diamond-like caustic inside another elliptical fold caustic. It transitions over a tangential caustic that is looking like a line, and it ends with a sagittal focus that is another line that is perpendicular to it. And you can see the entire caustic sequence of this complex 3-dimensional structure, of this generic caustic structure, by moving a screen through this reflection caustic. And with that, I'd like to end, and thank you for your attention, and enjoy your drinks.
Thanks to you very much, Dr. Markus Selmke. And now, after we learned what caustics are and how can we influence them, now you will have the opportunity to marvel at the theory directly in practice, because you all know it. You are prepared, I hope, to mix your own cocktail. And therefore, I would like to hand over to the cocktail mixing expert, to Martin Cordes. And have fun mixing your cocktail. Go ahead.
Hello and good evening. My name is Martin and I work for Shake Night. And I would kindly ask you to get all your ingredients and also all your equipment ready. So what you need is, of course, a gin. You also will need some fresh lemon, or maybe some lemon juice if you have already squeezed your lemon. We will also need some sugar syrup, and then we need some ice for your drink. We are gonna make the gin Basil Smash, what is a quite famous cocktail in Germany at the moment, I would say. And to make that cocktail, you will also need some equipment. But don't worry, if you don't have like some professional equipment, you can also use some different tools. What you will need is a cocktail shaker. Just like this. If you don't have this at hand, feel free to use maybe a gym shaker that you would use for your protein shakes or something, but also any container that is sealed very well and sure safely will make the job. Also, you will need something to squeeze your lemon. I have like this professional lemon squeezer, but everything will do. If you don't have anything by hand, just use the fork that you can stick into your lemon and then you squeeze it. Also, we will need some kind of measurement. For example, a professional jigger, but if you need anything else like a jigger, also a shot glass will do, for example, just so you kind of get a sense for how big are the parts that we are working with. If you have all this by hand, we are ready to start. I will give you a few seconds to get everything, and if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat function. I will answer all your questions through the chat. All right, so I think we're ready to go. In case you don't want to have an alcoholic drink right now, you can also make an alcohol-free version of it. If you don't want to use gin, you can also use some tea, maybe some cold tea, and I would recommend to go for a green tea or maybe a white tea. And if you're too busy to make a drink, just keep in mind how we made it, so you can do it maybe on the weekend for your friends. All right, so I assume you're almost ready, so I will give you the recipe now. Actually, the Gin Basil Smash is a German cocktail. It was invented in Hamburg, and maybe some of you are maybe in Hamburg right now, or maybe some of you have heard of the Bar Le Lion in Hamburg. And Jörg Meyer, the bar owner of that bar, is actually the inventor of the Gin Basil Smash that we are going to make now. So he says you can use 50 milliliters of gin. He says also maybe 60 milliliters of gin are even better. And he also mentions if you love yourself and if you love your guests, do even 70 milliliters. So you can choose whatever you want to do. I'm gonna go for 50 to 60 milliliters today. I'm not gonna go crazy tonight. So let's start with our liquids. If you have this kind of shaker, please use the smaller part of the shaker for the liquids. And then we add some gin to our shaker, 50, 70, maybe 60 milliliters, something around that. Maybe you can give me a little hint what your favorite gin is. Maybe you want to use the chat function, and I would love to hear what gin you're using tonight or what your favorite gin is in general. All right, so it's 50 or 60 milliliters of gin. You can also use some cold tea if you don't want to have alcohol tonight. Then next step is we gotta squeeze our lemon. If you make drinks, always use freshly squeezed juice. Yeah, is much better than whatever you get bottled from the store. Fresh lemons and fresh limes are key to very good drinks. And from that, we will need 25 milliliters for our drinks. So 25 milliliters of freshly squeezed lime or lemon juice. All right. So, and here I have my sugar syrup. I just made it by myself. It's very, very easy. It's just equal parts of hot water and sugar. And then you have your very easy, simple syrup ready. You can buy it at store, but it's very easy to make at home. So go for that version if you want to. And from that, we will need 20 milliliters of sugar syrup. So as a quick reminder, we've been using 50 to 60 milliliters of gin, also 25 milliliters of lemon juice, and also 20 milliliters of sugar syrup. Now we add some herbs, and when I say some herbs, I mean basil. If you want to add some basil, please feel free to use the stems as well, because you have a lot of flavor and a lot of color in there. And I'm going to use like maybe 12 leaves of basil. Yeah, so we get a very good aroma and very strong flavor into our drink. And when we do that, we are going to add it to the other part of our shaker, and we'll muddle it now. Therefore, I'm going to use this stick. You might know it from a typical mojito or typical caipirinha. And then you got to muddle your basil in the bottom of the shaker. And now you got to put a little bit of effort into that, because the better you muddle, the more flavor and also the more of the color you will get from your basil. And the basil will make your drink very delicious, very fresh, very aromatic, and will give a very good texture to it as well. So you really gotta destroy all that leaves and all that stuff is in there. So put some effort into that, and the better you muddle, the better will be your experience. All right, so this should be enough. Don't lose any of your basil. Perfect. And now, a very, very important ingredient for every cocktail that you're gonna make is ice. And therefore, please use good quality ice. Better use some bigger cubes. And also, please use always very clear ice. Very important that you have a good quality of ice. Because if you make it at home, it will be cloudy. And if it's cloudy, you're gonna know there is still some air, some very small bubbles in there. And that is because it's frozen from all directions at the same time. So if you wanna have good quality ice, you have to freeze it from one side down. So either top down or bottom up. So the air goes out of the ice, yeah, and that is what you make with big machines, or you have to build a very difficult machine for it at home. So I would always recommend buy your ice at the store, so you have good quality ice. If you can make it at home, it will work, but the quality of your drink will be a little bit better if you're using better ice quality. So how much ice do we need? I would actually recommend to always fill your shaker to the half. So I'm going to make this half full with ice, so I have lots of ice. It's also very important to use the right amount of ice. And the more you use, the less your drink will water down. So please always use a lot of ice to get a good quality. If you have any questions regarding cocktails in general or this specific drink, please feel free to ask and feel free to use the chat box. All right, so now we have our shaker ready. Now we're gonna close our shaker. And now very, very important, please close it so it's very safe and sealed. So I'm gonna give it a little clap, yeah? And now also very important, it's not so much about the technique you're using when you're shaking your drink. It's much more about how you look while you're doing it. So as a bartender, if you want to impress your friend, you gotta look very cool, yeah? So please have a cool signature move when you shake your drink. And now we're gonna shake our drink as long as we can hold it actually, because if you will realize that it will freeze at the outside and you can barely hold it anymore, you have the right amount of dilution and also aeration in your shaker. So let's go, let's shake our cocktails and go. All right, so my drink should be very cold now. My shaker is almost freezing at the outside. Now we're gonna open up our shaker. And now also very important, we are gonna use fresh ice cubes because those already lost some temperature and we don't want to melt down too much of the ice. So we're gonna use fresh water and therefore we're gonna fill the glass to the top with ice cubes. And now again, a very important thing, always fill your glass to the top with ice cubes. Some people always think like all these bartenders are kind of cheating when they're filling the glass with ice, so they have to use less of the liquids. And therefore you're gonna pay more and get less. But actually the good bartenders always try to give you the best quality product that they can offer. And therefore they're gonna fill the glass with ice because the more ice you're using, the less of it will water down. So it's always good to use a lot of ice. So now, I'm going to use a strainer now to hold all the ice back so it doesn't drop into my glass. Yeah, you can also use like a simple spoon or something if you don't have that. And now we're going to single strain our cocktail into the glass. And what you should see now is a very rich greenish note or tone from the basil. If you've been very good with the muddling, when you muddled the basil, you should get a very rich note or very rich tone of green. And here we go. Let's also add a little garnish with some basil leaves. Now I'm gonna come back to the camera so you can see the result. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Gin Basil Smash. And I would say, let's enjoy together. Cheers to you. And yeah, mine went super well, very delicious, very fresh. And that's a good basis to start with the cocktail. You can actually make your own drinks out of that if you want to. You can, you can also make different types of that drink. You have a basis now. This is like a basis recipe, like 2 parts of alcohol, 1 part of sour, so lemon juice or lime juice, and then you have 1 part sweet, and that is actually a sour, like a gin sour, for example. If you change out the liquid, you can make a whiskey sour out of it. If you change it for a rum, you can make either daiquiri or maybe a rum sour or something like that. And then you can also add some more aromas, for example, like basil or anything else. Maybe you want to add some raspberries. And this is how you make sour style cocktails. Yeah. So if you want to impress your friends, feel free to use this recipe and also try out a little bit with it and make maybe some new recipe. Maybe you will create your own cocktail with that. And here we go. This was our cocktail class for today. Cheers. And I hope you guys in the studio did also some cocktails.
Thank you very much, Martin Cordes. I'm afraid I did not do any cocktails for now, but I will do it in a moment when I have the chance to. But I did hear some notes, so hopefully I will get it done lately, maybe some point at home.